Welcome to Food Ed, the podcast that explores the vital role food plays in the classroom. Join us as we dive into the latest research, share best practices, and hear from experts in the field. Let's work together to create a school environment where every student can thrive. Let's become food educated together.
Hello, everybody. My name is Svetlana Elgard, and welcome to the Food Ed podcast. So happy to have you guys here today. And with us today, we have Cynthia Salgado, who is working for the Ventura County Office of Education as the VCBH manager. Welcome, Cynthia. Welcome.
Thank you. I'll share a little bit for those that want to get in touch with me. My name is Cynthia Salas Salgado. Thank you. I work for Ventura County Office of Education within the Migrant Education Program. I lead identification and recruitment efforts for our program within the agency. So thank you for having me today.
Well, it is super excited about what you do. So give us some information about your job, exactly what you're doing, because there's just so much to it. Explain a little bit to people that you're working for the Ventura County Office of Education and exactly what part you're kind of responsible for. I think it's a very interesting for people to know. Yes.
Thank you. Yes. So as I shared, I'm the supervisor or manager for identification and recruitment for specifically trying to locate families who work in areas of agriculture, such as the fishery industry, agriculture in terms of picking, dairy, packing houses, and so forth. And so we try to identify families. We do a short eligibility survey. The families, a minimum, have to move once every 3 years to be considered migrant families due to work in these industries to be eligible for services. So what we do is once we identify the families, we provide opportunities throughout the educational platforms. We have a speech and debate. We have parent leadership conferences. We work very closely with our school districts to support them in ways to ensure that these students receive the support necessary to successfully complete high school and move on to their next journey, whether it be vocational opportunities, community college opportunities, or four-year college opportunities.
Okay, wonderful. So how is the Ventura Board of Education involved with the local community and the schools? Can you elaborate a little bit for me?
Well, sure. Explaining a little bit again about the structures, because many people have the misconception that the counties of offices dictate what school districts do, when in reality, in our case, Ventura County Offices of Education has their own school board. The school board works very closely with our elected county superintendent, Dr. Cesar Morales, to support the needs of the community. Dr. Morales works very closely with all of our superintendents in the county of Ventura to partner, to support, to figure out what are the needs of the schools, both on the positive end as well as the side that needs support in terms of restructuring something that might be a need. I don't have a specific example because I don't necessarily dive in the day-to-day on that end, but I do know that the county offices of education make themselves available to support schools. Our particular program specifically serves any schools in the K through 12 arena that has a number of migrant students on their campuses. And so once these students are identified from our end, we ensure that they're connected with their schools. And then we work together with them to provide them the support necessary. Like I shared, we have parent meetings where we provide information about resources, whether it be health, whether it be resources tied to economic needs, and we connect them with other agencies such as the county agencies, healthcare, behavioral health, mental health, behavioral health, mental health, same thing, public health or human services agency to ensure families are also eligible for benefits, given whatever the requirements are for the counties. And also connect with other grassroots organizations that provide free services to families, such as food insecurity. There's organizations within our county that work together with agencies that provide food throughout the county. So they distribute food to different populations. So we work very closely with different agencies that would provide supplemental support in the way of healthcare or support.
Health for the schools. What are some of the things that you have seen that the schools need help in? Like, what would be some of the things that just, overall that schools would be looking for support that you have seen?
So I've worn different hats in the county, this one being my most recent role. But when I served as the equity service manager for Ventura County Behavioral Health, at that time, I noticed that many of the schools really sought out the support of mental health services, especially during and after the pandemic. Yes. The isolation, for many students, the sense of loss, not being able to celebrate the traditional things that students celebrate in a classroom, that was taken away, like even the bonding with teachers didn't happen. So there was a lot of emotional as well as behavioral impact on our youth as a result of the pandemic. So
yes, of course.
In my experience, even in this role, that is one of the biggest areas of support that school districts are seeking. The second being resources, and one being food. Many of our schools work very closely, like I said, with food banks to provide those opportunities, as well as connecting with a list of community-based organizations that also have food pantries that provide supplemental support when what is offered isn't enough for a family.
Okay. Wow. Very, very important. And I'm seeing that a lot as well, the mental health and go ahead.
I was going to say, and to share a little bit about the demographics of Ventura County. Ventura County is largely an agricultural community. We also have industries such as biotechnology, as well as in engineering, a large Navy base. So it is a well-diverse community, but when it comes to our families that are most in need, it is our field working families in Ventura County. The highest poverty level, as you may heard, your zip code defines what resources you get and what communities are represented. So our poorest families live within the zip codes of the cities of Santa Paula, which is out here called Santa Clara Valley, parts of Fillmore, Piru, Santa Paula, Ventura Avenue, and South Oxnard. And those are the highest cities. There's poverty pockets, but out of the county, those are the 5 highest at-need communities.
Okay. What do you think yourself about food education? How do you feel about food education?
Wow. It is very important.
Big question.
I mean, a lot of people think of food from the perspective of, I got to stay healthy, I got to lose weight, I got to get fit. But when we really think about it at its core, it is very fundamental. And when we talk about the development of a child, it is at its core. That sets up a child for future success or failure. As I was preparing for this podcast and conversation with you today, I started to go back and research a little bit about the essential nutrition of what's needed for children. And the Harvard Health Publishing article by Dr. Claire McCarthy states that there are an essential number of nutrients. In fact, there's about 15. I'm not going to name all of them, but the vitamin B complex being one of them, vitamin D, vitamin A,
Yes.
folate, zinc, and choline. All of these are instrumental in brain development. That's what all
Yes.
these key ones that I mentioned have in common. And so when we talk about a child in its developmental stages and in its learning stages, if a child isn't eating the proper foods during their developmental stages and in their learning experiences will be really compromised. Child's not going to be able to focus because they're hungry. That's one. But two, over time,
Correct.
the nutritional needs of the brain are not sustained, so it creates other health problems. And that's an everyday child. Now, when you think of migrant families and the mobility that happens between school districts to school districts, cities to cities, or even counties to counties, and even states, the interruption of that is very harsh on the family unit as a whole. But focusing on the student, it brings a lot of challenges. And for many families, focusing on nutrition at school might be the only time families have or children have secure meals throughout the day. So on that regard, when you ask me the question, what are my opinion of that? I think that should be the one priority everywhere, that it should be a requirement in our school systems, that when we identify families that have food insecurities, that we ensure day one that we connect them with resources, and not just connect them because giving somebody a card might not be useful for that person. That person might not have a cell phone. There might be language barriers, but really taking the time to do that warm handoff and say, let me connect you with so-and-so. I've told them about your situation, so you don't have to relive this
Yes.
experience with someone
Yes.
else. And they can connect you with the resources that are necessary for you to be able to provide yourself and your family with a nutritious meal. But for migrant families, it's very difficult because they're not able to secure the public services that you and I might be able to secure because we're established in a city or in a county. They might have to re-register for services over and over, and depending on how quickly the turnaround is from county to county or city to city, that might be weeks, which means sometimes families will resort to the most inexpensive things that they can buy. As many families shop at, like, say, the 99-cent store, and they may or may not have produce, but for those that don't have access to that, in places like food deserts, processed food is the most inexpensive. And then again, that compromise not only the health of the adults, but also the children, and not just
100%.
the mental, but the physical.
Well, you know what? You're so right on the money. So then by your answer, are you saying that there should be food ed in schools, that our children should learn the basics of food and health and wellness and nutrition?
I think, yes, I agree with you 100% on that. I think that just like as we think about what makes up a healthy adult, right? It's your health, your physical health, your mental health, and all of that is tied to your nutrition, because your mind can deteriorate based on.
I'm going to clap for you. I'm going to bravo for you.
Your external stress, as well as your internal stress, right? So if you're not eating properly over time, that can also deteriorate your mental well-being as well as your physical well-being, and really sets up any individual for health failure in the long run. And so I do agree, just like we prepare students to go to college or any professional track, we should be preparing students, if certain schools are not doing this, preparing them to how to plan financially for their future, but also how to take care of your health, because none of these external things matter if physically you're compromised. We all take for granted our health until something goes wrong. I remember I hurt my hand like a week ago, and I took for granted that I type all the time, right? And something happened to my hand, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to type with one finger. And it just made me aware of how important the rest of our body is. And so when we don't feed our bodies correctly and we don't take care of our bodies correctly, then we wear and tear ourselves faster than we should in terms of aging physically.
This episode is brought to you by Rainbow Chefs Academy. Rainbow Chefs Academy provides turnkey nutrition and wellness training for schools, home-based, and after-school programs. For more information, please check the link in the show notes or visit rainbowchefsacademy.com. And now, back to the show.
We know food education is important for everybody, and we know that food education is important mostly for children to start at an early age so they can actually learn and lead a healthier lifestyle. What would be the best way that we can educate our kids K through 12? Like what do you think would be the best plan if we can execute it? What would that be?
I love that question. I'm one, like I said, my previous role was equity service manager. And the best responses to things that didn't fall into the structure that we had in place was to be culturally responsive. And culturally responsive is not just thinking ethnically, it's thinking about the populations that you work with, our elderly, our transitional age youth. That in itself is a culture. Like last night, I was watching a documentary on food. Interesting enough, I was watching a documentary on the taco, and they were talking about how different generations would look at food differently.
Yes.
And so, to address your question, if this is something that we can't structure within the institutions of education, as a community, we could come together and celebrate food in food festivals. But bring in, let's say, professionals that can speak to the importance of eating healthy and how to balance your meal, but taking culture into perspective. So individuals can take the knowledge of saying, gosh, you know what, I have to watch how much bread I eat. Well, you know what, it's healthier in my culture to eat tortillas than it is bread, right? And so, or sometimes pastries, for example. People are going to eat the things that they like, but when you give them choices and options, for example, and our team loves donuts. I prefer Mexican sweet bread. I love donuts too, but I can eat 2-3 donuts and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just ate like a whole day's worth of a meal. But if I eat a pan dulce, that's like 80 calories. So in sugar, so I can eat 4 of those and I'd probably be full. I don't think I could finish 4, but be full. But use what people already know. Bring culture and knowledge to the table, and celebrate and acknowledge the capital that our community brings to the table around food, and say let's see how we can reinvent that. You
mean add more healthier ingredients and just maybe do the tortillas, but you can do, for example, cauliflower tortillas, or another day we did broccoli tortillas. You could keep what you're saying, the cultural, but you can learn how to add ingredients that are not really going to damage your health. That's what you're kind of referring to, right?
Exactly. Like for my mother, I wanted her to substitute rice. And so I was trying to introduce her to a plant-based diet, and she looked at me like, ugh. Right. So one day I just prepared the cauliflower rice, like you're speaking to. I did the same seasoning that we would do for Spanish rice.
Yes.
And then I bought plant-based ground patty beef and seasoned that in the same way. And the only thing I did keep was a flour tortilla, because I know my mom would have noticed the difference with the cauliflower. We're not there yet, but we're getting there. And so then I mixed up all the ingredients and put, beans, and then, lettuce, tomato, all those things, wrapped it up, cut it in half. And my mom's like, this is great. And I said, Mom, you're eating almost 100% plant-based food. Meal. And it's, again, the reintroduction, but going back to my initial comments about the families, my parents were also field workers. So sometimes it's what you had available. We also look at the price of things, but I think that if things are able to be introduced, are like, these are your everyday things. It's just how you reintroduce them and repackage them, I should say. And you're going to get the same outcome with more health benefits. Now I've turned my mom into, plant-based patties. So now when we go to certain restaurants, she'll ask for the plant-based patties instead of the regular beef patties. And that is, for me, it's very important because my mom started to show the signs of prediabetes. And so I was trying to tell her, look, you don't have to be in this boring, dry diet. It's a matter of looking at how to reintroduce food into your life. I have a nephew who's an athlete, and I was talking to him about the power of eating clean through plant-based foods. And he looked at me like, what? I've never heard of that. So I showed them this food documentary, and now he's really turned on by that and trying to see how he as an athlete can use food to fuel his body to be at its optimal performance. And so, but it comes by trial and error, showing and making a safe space to ask questions about things.
Yes.
As well as to, I always think of the book Dr. Seuss, green eggs and ham.
Yes,
Everybody's
the green
like,
eggs and ham. Yes.
That's what I think of. So when I think about how do we introduce this in schools, I would start with that book. We greens ate poor Sam. He didn't know what he was missing out. And when he tried it, he could have it in the house here and there. I think it's the same thing about introducing better ways of eating. It's like, remember Sam, he didn't want to try it. And at the end, he took a bite and then he was hooked. So I think that would be the bigger way to do it, to introduce the community to different ways of eating. And I will share that in social media streams, that's become the norms. Like I follow this young woman on TikTok. She's a nutritionist, and she's reinvented Mexican food. She's Mexican herself, all plant-based. And yes. I think that is beautiful because we're still conserving. In this case, we're talking about Mexican food, but they're still conserving the flavor and the culture, but it's in a healthier version.
Well, I think that, what you describe is amazing. And it absolutely, if we would do this, it would absolutely work. It would actually make a dent. As you are aware, obesity and diabetes in children, every sixth child is obese and diabetic by the age of 12. As to your point with a Stanford article, correct, education will change behavior. So all of the things you were describing will actually change the behavior of a child. And I love how you introducing the plant-based diet. And I think that as a community, we're onto something, and we need to do that. I'd love to keep talking to you more. I think that our audience would love to know what your favorite food is. What is your favorite food?
My favorite food is I love Indian food.
You like
That's
Indian
one of my
food?
favorite.
Okay.
I love
so
Indian
you like
food.
Spicy food then?
I like spicy food. Yes, I like spicy food, and I was very grateful and blessed to have a father that loved exploring foods from different countries. And so as a very young kid, he took us to different foods. So I love Asian food, but my favorite dish is very simple. My great-grandmother, I grew up with my great-grandmother a big portion of my young life. And we came from very humble beginnings, but she always made me this hard shell taco, but it was potato. It's a potato taco. And she would fill it up with lettuce, tomato, sour cream, and salsa. And that is the most simple, but it brings me the most fondest memory of my childhood. And it was very healthy because, it was very healthy.
What's the name of the dish? What's the name?
They're called tacos dorados de papa. Potato hard shell.
Tacos de papa. Okay. Wow. I've never heard of that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So so it's one of my favorite dishes. Very simple. I mean, and it's something that got me through college too. You think about when you're a college student, and I refused to live off of top ramen. I just couldn't do it. So it was just very simple. Potatoes, boil them.
And do it. So you cook, you yourself cook at home, and then you do, I can tell. So you see the importance of cooking at home. most of the families that you come across, are they cooking at home? Most of their meals, are they cooked, or are they just processed foods that they warm up? Do you find that that's an issue, that they're not cooking from scratch? Or what are most of them doing? What do you find
I think
the
it
balance?
depends. Yeah, it depends on the support mechanism at home. I know that many of our families do cook at home. They given that's why many of our meetings, when we have parent meetings in the evening, we try to start like 6:37. So it allows them the opportunity to have that time to cook and have a meal with their families. And again, it could be many things. For work, I know many families will prepare like what we call the burrito here in the United States, and stuff it with egg, whatever they have available,
whatever
right?
they have
Available. But for at home, many of families might make like, let's say, a chicken soup with a lot of vegetables. They might also, like I said, on a skillet grill meat with lettuce, tomato, depending on what the families have, but they do eat. And it's so interesting that we're having this conversation, because one of the topics that I'm hoping to launch this next year with our families as a session is provide opportunity to learn new recipes, to how to cook healthy, how to cook different. So I'm researching, and I'm looking to team up with our local food share. They have a program that they teach families about they cook together with the families and show them different meals. And so I'm learning a little bit about that right now. And that's one of the goals I have, and how to introduce the families to using the ingredients that they already have at home, but reinventing the recipe.
Well, that's fantastic. I want you to know that this has been such an exciting podcast for me, and what you are doing is amazing. You're a true leader, and you have your finger on the pulse. You know what's going on. You really are understanding that, and I think that that's what we need. We need more people like you, and I want you to know that if there's anything that I can do to help Ventura County Office of Education, I'm in. I would love to form a community where we can help each other, and especially the schools, the kids. So I am going to send you a backpack as a thank you.
Oh, thank you.
To your office, yes. And I would love to stay in touch with you and
absolutely
check in, and hopefully, there's got to be something that as a community we can come up, that we can do it everywhere so it can be actually accomplished, and our kids can start eating not a plant-based, but a healthier diet. And then they can, I love the way you talked about the nutrients. That is so important. And I think that's something that needs to be known from the early age. So
yeah, well, I want to thank you for taking the time to lead these efforts. Food is the core and the base of all cultures, and when we think about health and longevity and future health as adults, it's the core of everything, and there isn't enough discussion around it other than what's put out on social media and infomercials about what people should look like and the quick fix. But so I want to thank you for uplifting this topic. It is very important and very much needed, and let's start normalizing talking about food and the importance of reintroducing food in a different way to many of our families.
Yes, that is amazing. Thank you so much for your time. This was one of the best podcasts. I really appreciate your time, your kindness, your leadership. And I will be in touch with you. And you guys, hope to see you on the next episode of podcast. Cynthia, thank you so much again. So enjoyed meeting you. You're
very welcome. And I look forward to any partnerships we can do together in service to the community.
Yes, thank you. Take care.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform and on YouTube. Let's work together to create a school environment where every student can thrive while becoming food educated together. We will see you next week on Food Ed.